This morning's guest will make you an offer you can't refuse. You might think you don't want to watch, but you do. You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Holiday Inn West on the Waterway in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on Computer Security Conference 2007, which was held here last Thursday and Friday at the Holiday Inn West. And we're doing part two of Jon Kibler, the Chief Technical Officer with Advanced Systems Engineering Technology in Charleston. Good morning, Jon. Thanks so much for coming back. It was great having you in on Wednesday. Of course, Cully Carson with Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Rice was with us yesterday, and obviously Dr. John Stamey kicked off this week. Zeke Creech was with us on Tuesday, but it was so critical for our viewers having you here with us on Wednesday, thinking of some of the issues that you highlighted, not only at last week's Computer Security Conference here at the Holiday Inn West, but also some of the practical issues that our viewers need to be thinking about on a daily basis. I wish more folks could be tuning in this morning to get part two of you, but some real critical issues that a lot of viewers need to be thinking about.
Definitely. And, I mean, because money is behind it, organized crime is behind it, I hate to say it, but it's only going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse.
And what it boils down to is organized crime right now is making so much money on it. They're spending more money, according to most estimates that we see in the industry, researching ways to compromise computers than the entire rest of the industry worldwide is spending on security.
So organized crime is spending more time and money to continue to compromise computers than everyone else can spend to try to stop it from happening.
You got it.
That is serious.
Yes. I mean, we're being out-innovated and outspent by the bad guys. That's the bottom line.
Well, what, for viewers sitting at home right now, should they think of just not to turning their computer on, Jon? Seriously.
It's almost come to that. I mean, but if you're careful, you do it right, and you don't do the things that are going to put you at risk, then, yeah, you can probably continue to use your computer. If you've got up-to-date patches, you've got up-to-date antivirus, you've got up-to-date anti-spyware, you have a good firewall, and you don't do dangerous things, it's probably okay. In fact, I know organizations that have gone 4, 5, or more years and not had a single infestation in the entire organization.
Is that right?
And it's all because of good practices.
And they're still interfacing with the outside world.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not just interfacing within themselves.
Yes. I've got one client that when I started working with him a couple years ago, had 4 people full-time basically trying to keep the computers clean, and just by changing some basic things of the way they did business, they were able to cut it down to a half person, in terms of just, keeping the computers up and running.
Some big cost savings for both large
Yes.
and small companies.
Exactly.
By doing this properly.
Yes. But, you have to be aware of, where your risk. And for the average home user, instant messaging. I mean, it's a cesspool. There's no other way of putting it out there. We see a tremendous amount of the worst stuff being spread by instant messaging, and probably the only thing worse right now than instant messaging is the peer-to-peer file sharing networks like the Kazaz and LimeWire and things like that, as a way of spreading malware. You say, oh, I want to go get this movie, or I want to go get this recording from this peer-to-peer network. You have no idea whether it's a legitimate recording or a legitimate copy of the movie, or whether it's something that is completely infested and you're trying to run it is only going to infect your computer.
Well, hopefully a lot of our viewers are not spending time at those locations doing peer-to-peer file sharing, but I'm sure a lot of them are doing instant messaging.
Yeah.
How about within, for instance, I saw recently in Gmail there was some level of Google messaging or instant messaging.
That all falls under the same category.
That's still very
right,
very
because
dangerous.
You have no way of knowing who it really is that you're talking to.
Right.
And there's been a lot of malware that have infected things like the social networking sites like MySpace.
Oh, no.
And probably the worst example was the Super Bowl site. Got infected with what we call a zero-day exploit, meaning something that no one basically knew about until people started getting infected, and just going to the Super Bowl site infected your computer.
Oh my God, you mean so the Super Bowl, of course, and during the broadcast they're promoting visit superbowl.com.
Well, fortunately at that point it was cleaned up, but prior to that, I'm not sure how many days it was, but for some period of time, the Super Bowl website was infected, and anybody visited, would get their computer infected.
That's tragic.
And I mean, it's just, like I said, we're being out-innovated, with ways of compromising computers.
Well, one of the worst things, I think, for viewers and for just common people is we could be promoting, go visit this website. It's got great information about trees or about plants or candles, and we know we love it. We go there all the time, but by encouraging our friends and family and loved ones to go there, we're actually sending them to a hotbed of malware, a hotbed of spam, or a hotbed of Trojans. That's terrible.
Potentially, but if you have up-to-date antivirus, up-to-date, anti-spyware, and you have it, configured to run actively all the time, it minimizes the risk.
Good.
The problem is that most people do not.
Most people do not have that on their computers.
Either do not have it on their computers, do not have it set to run continuously, or it is not up to date. I even see that in major businesses. I'll go in and do an audit in a company, and they say, oh, we got all up to date, antivirus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and find easily a third of the computers are totally out of date. And then they have laptops that people have taken afield, and I'm not staying at this hotel, but I won't say which one I am, but just monitoring it's a wireless network in this hotel, and monitoring the traffic on the air. I saw last night when I first got on that there was 2 infected computers scanning the network looking for other computers to infect, and by the time I got off the internet, like 4 hours later, there was at least a dozen computers. So those 2 computers had proceeded to infect several other computers just by the wireless network.
In the hotel you were staying in when you were in town for the conference. That is terrible. You were able to watch computers infecting other computers.
Yes.
What is a citizen? I mean, what is someone who knows that's happening? What do you do about it? Do you call the police, or what can you do?
There's really not much you can do.
Right.
I mean, the problem is so bad that if law enforcement were to try to investigate every single incident, there isn't enough law enforcement agents in the world to handle just the problems we probably have here in South Carolina.
Wow.
I mean, like I said on Wednesday, the basic problem is that if you have an unpatched computer, your lifetime before infection on the internet is somewhere in the ballpark of 10 minutes.
10 minutes. When you turn your new computer on, if it's not patched properly, it's going to be infected.
Not only
on average.
Yes, on average, but not only your new computer, but if you haven't been maintaining the patches to an existing computer.
For a viewer who may not understand what you're talking about when you talk about patches, of course, a lot of folks hear patches, they think of something entirely different than related to computers.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Okay, well, all software has bugs, and bugs we mean errors. People, as a software industry, we haven't figured out how to write good code yet. Code that can't be broken. So we have to put fixes out for it, and we call those fixes patches. And all of the vendors, all the applications out there, just not Windows and Microsoft, but everybody out there on a regular basis publishes fixes for the errors in their software. And we have a tremendous amount of all the problems that we have in security, I would say, for 3 reasons. We have bugs in the software that people are trying to figure out, or I should say successfully figuring out ways to use those bugs to compromise computers. We have insecure computer configurations. As an example, the typical Windows computer the home user is going to have, every user on that computer has administrative privilege, meaning that they have the ability to install anything they want to on the computer.
Okay.
That enables any of this malware to completely install, at will, because the user is running with a privilege that they probably shouldn't have. And the same thing applies in the corporate world. Too much privilege, bad configuration creates problems. And the other, I guess the only way to say it is, be blunt, and that's human stupidity. In fact, there's a T-shirt that's popular in the security community that says there is no patch for human stupidity.
Oh, boy.
I mean, you can't do anything about people doing things dumb. Not patching their computers, opening email attachments, going to
opening email attachments from folks you don't know, you mean, right?
Don't know or do know.
Or do know.
Yes. I tell people that if you receive an email and you see that little paper clip out onto the side that says it's got an attachment, and you weren't expecting it, call the person before you ever attempt to open that email, because a lot of the crimeware that's out there today will actually scan your inbox, your file folders, your address book, and look for people to send email to.
That's terrible.
So that if a friend of yours' computer gets compromised, you might receive an email from that person that is very similar to an email you've already received from them, but now has an attachment. So you say, oh, this must be some additional information on this subject.
Right.
You open the email up, and your computer's infected.
Wow. And of course, oftentimes there may be, in that instance, if that's happened, what can a viewer do then? If they open an attachment and it doesn't have pertinent information, if it's just a blank screen, is that an example? Would it just be a blank screen, or is it possible there would be something that looks like it's from my friend,
it could
but
be,
it still
it
is
got
either crud?
If it is something bad and it's something that's fairly well known, it's relatively easy to block if you've got up-to-date antivirus and anti-spyware software.
Okay.
But, and this is the big but, antivirus and anti-spyware software can only block things that they know about. The big problem that we have run into is that organized crime is pumping this stuff out so fast,
right,
that and they have so many infected computers that they can send it from, that what used to be 2 weeks from the time somebody first found a virus until they actually got computers being infected in large quantities, it took a couple weeks. Now we're seeing a couple hours, and the vendors just can't keep up with the rapidity at which this stuff is spreading. So the best thing you can do is hope that if somebody sent you something, your antivirus software is up to date and will catch it. But there are no guarantees.
No guarantees, John.
Yes.
No guarantees. That's a difficult thing. Do you recommend viewers, is there a website they could visit, a non-commercial website that viewers could visit to learn more about things they could do to try to protect themselves? I know on Wednesday you talked about the SANS Institute, SANS.org. Are there other websites?
Yes,
that folks
probably the place to start is Department of Homeland Security. I don't remember the URL. I think it's DHS or USDHS.
Right, sure, but if someone went to Google and typed in Homeland Security.
Security tips.
Security tips, great.
And they have, a whole list of things that you can do, to help make your computer secure. But they're kind of the same types of things that we've been talking about in this discussion.
Yes. On Wednesday, after we wrapped up the interview on Wednesday morning, John, you talked about China and the significance of China being a good example for viewers to have an idea of what is not only happening in other parts of the world, but what may be impacting America in the very near future. Share with viewers a little bit of what you shared with me regarding China.
Sometime this year, it's estimated that China is going to have more broadband connections, meaning things like cable modem or DSL, than the entire rest of the world put together.
China will have more broadband connections, DSL, otherwise cable than the rest of the world combined.
It's sometime this year. They already have more connections than the United States does. And combine that with the fact that estimates vary, but somewhere between 90, 95, 98% of all of the computers in China are running unpatched versions of Microsoft Windows. Well, I should say pirated versions.
Pirated versions
of Microsoft
You all need to
Windows.
listen to that. This is powerful. I mean, this is powerful. You're saying 95 to 98% of the computer users in China are using pirated copies of Windows.
Pirated copies of Windows. And if you listen to the politics, there's the U.S. just filed suit in World Trade Court about digital rights infringement and piracy against China. Well, this is a real good example of why.
Right.
But the fact that you have, like I said, essentially the overwhelming majority of computers in China are running pirated Windows. That means unpatched versions of Windows, and which means that they're just sitting ducks, to be infected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
the simple side of that is they can't be patched because they're illegal already. They're illegal from the get-go, so they can't get the proper patches.
Microsoft has relented to some degree and started allowing people that have not been verified registered users to download patches. But people running pirated versions of Windows have this fear factor that, if I go out and get the patches, Microsoft's going to be able to trace back to who I am and know that I'm running an unregistered version of Windows, and it's probably a pirated version, particularly since I'm coming from country X, Y, or Z.
Right.
So, it's a way for them to find out about me. So even, in the cases where Microsoft will allow them to patch, they're not doing it for fear of being discovered.
Very serious. So that in and of itself, if China is so heavily compromised, how will that impact Americans?
It's just, more base for compromised computers to be used to send spam, to send out viruses, to attack other computers. We're seeing what we call distributed denial service attacks, where groups of these compromised computers are used to go out and attack other computer systems, often for ransom type of things, kind of like the old mafia insurance scam. You pay me $100 a week or I'll burn your business down. I'm offering you fire insurance. And they're going after particularly companies that have, some borderline nefarious operations, things like pornography or online gambling, and they will launch these attacks against those companies, take them down for hours on end, and you're talking companies that are making tens of thousands of dollars an hour, and they say, hey, if you will pay us X number of dollars a week, usually several $1,000s a week, we will promise not to attack you again.
Wow.
So, high-tech insurance scam.
Wow. Not to give any credibility to the companies that are already doing some relatively nefarious activities. Not that porn in and of itself, it's terrible stuff, but at the same time, if they've got legitimate business or operating legitimately, it's terrible that they can be taken down and then held for ransom. But of course, that could be happening to upstanding companies as well.
Exactly. We've seen attacks. Probably about 4 years ago, there's a Canadian teenager that went by the name Mafia Boy.
Right.
And if you go out and Google on him, you'll find a lot of information. And this, early teenage boy, 10, 12, 14 years old, took out Yahoo and E-Trade and several major sites. I don't remember all of them. It's been several years ago.
When you say took them out, you mean
he launched a distributed denial service attack against them, and literally made them unavailable for anybody to use.
Worldwide. For periods of time.
Yes.
My Lord. A teenager could do that. Very young, a 12, 13, 14-year-old.
Yeah. And the tools to do all this stuff are freely available on the internet for anybody that knows where to look. And
what can the U.S. government do to crack down on this, John? Is there anything they can do?
Well, two issues. One, it's a worldwide problem.
Right.
How are you going to, shut down websites that are in places like Belarus or that we don't even have minimum contact with? And then you have also the issue that the good guys need to be able to get a hold of these tools, to be able to test their networks, to secure their networks, so that they can see I'm not vulnerable to this type of attack.
How about if you've got folks working for you? If you're a computer company or a software company and you contract out work done overseas, are there concerns that possibly that work, that code work, is going to be impacted negatively, let's say in Armenia or somewhere?
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you look at the statistics on the countries that conduct industrial espionage against U.S. corporations, I don't remember the exact order, but the leading ones are usually France, Israel, China, Japan, South Korea, India, Pakistan, the Philippines. Where are we outsourcing all of our work to? Stuff that they were making concerted efforts to steal, we're given to them now. So it's a major issue. In fact, a lot of people, I do have several aerospace and defense clients, and there is a major concern that the Defense Department is now actually outsourcing a lot of software development of highly sensitive avionics software to foreign countries because they can get it done cheaper abroad than they can here in the U.S.
John, that is very serious, very serious. We just got a couple of minutes. I'm trying to think about, you've laid out on Wednesday and today so many critical issues. What can viewers do? And of course, most viewers or even viewers associated with small companies or even large companies wouldn't have the wherewithal to hire somebody like you and your company. I know obviously you all go out and I'm sure you represent large and small companies, but what could a viewer do to protect themselves, and any other issues that really worry you?
The big thing that really worries me is, people do things for convenience, rather than, what is safe. A couple of things that really worry me is wireless. At this point in time, anything that is wireless is basically not securable. So
you're not talking about my cell phone, though.
I'm not talking about your cell phone, but I'm talking about Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or you're starting to see WiMAX being deployed by the
even town. Charleston company recently was trying to become very
yes,
right.
And the problem is when you're on Wi-Fi, for example, even if you're doing safe web browsing, you say a little padlock locked.
Right.
Well, on a wireless connection, you can still compromise the information that you would think would be secure. So anything, let's put it this way, anything that you wouldn't want to see published on a billboard along US 17 or I-95, you don't want to do on a wireless network connection.
In our homes, folks, that we set up the little wireless connection in our home, it's much better then, I guess, to just continue to use the direct line coming in, whether with Roadrunner or Verizon or Comcast.
Yes, plug it in because you're not subject to attack, and then turn off the wireless actually on your computers. If you're walking around with a wireless-enabled notebook and say you're in an airport, then other people with wireless computers can actually connect to your computer, copy files off your computer, etc., through the wireless connection.
That is insane, John.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to we have such a focus on convenience that we don't even give any thought to what are the security implications.
So for the companies that are trying to proffer and to promote convenience, they really need to be focused on security issues and how they can be both convenient as well as secure. Can you do both? Can you be both convenient and secure, Jon Kibler?
Very, very difficult. I tell people, look at how you analyze systems that you're going to bring into your organization. And most people, the first question they ask once you get past the point of how much is it going to cost is, how am I going to use this system? What's it used for? What's it going to save me? Well, the real question that needs to be asked is, how can the system be used against me?
How can the system be used against me?
Yeah, I mean, and that's with any technology. I was at a security conference a year and a half or so ago where they were talking about all the issues with wireless security, and they were talking about major parts of our national critical infrastructure like power plants. In this case, it was actually a nuclear power plant that to save money, when they upgraded their digital controls, they put in wireless networking. And they were showing some pictures that were published in a trade publication of some of the wireless equipment they put in. And if you looked at it real closely, they had little labels on the outside of the box that told anybody that wanted to everything they needed to do to be able to get in and manipulate their wireless network or any of the equipment on their network. It's just...
John, you've opened up a can of worms. Unfortunately, we've run out of time again, just like we did Wednesday morning, a can of worms, and obviously there's a lot of places. We'll try to promote some of those real quick in the wrap, but a lot of things viewers need to be doing every day to really try to protect themselves. Thanks so much for your time,
definitely.
for being a part of the security conference last week here at the Holiday Inn West. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Jon Kibler coming up next. You heard John say it. I hope you've been listening. If you weren't with us on Wednesday, I hope you just took the time to listen to this critical interview the last 30 minutes. He had 5 key steps there. Patch from the beginning. Make sure the patching is done early on in your computer, right when you take it out of the box. Make sure it's done properly. There's other things you can do if you're using an existing computer, but make sure patching is done properly. Update your antivirus and anti-spyware software, anti-spyware daily, and make sure they're in the mode that runs continuously. That's continuously, all the time, the antivirus and anti-spyware. Keep your Windows firewall enabled. Keep that Windows firewall enabled, and also take the time in this instance to visit carolinapeople.com so you can see the right link to the what Jon talked about, a cookbook for folks who can't even spell computer. The simple breakdown of going through these steps to get it right. Go on to carolinapeople.com and click on that link. And Jon, thanks again for everything.